But I felt it very important, if I was representing the membership, to vote like the membership, instead of voting like, I wanted to become the president, yeah.
Okay, let's take this case, and the case that precedes it, and look at Barbara's role in both situations, and tell me what you see. What's her role in
Here's the other case.
this
Right.
one and in the previous one? What's her role, and are they the same or different?
I would say mediator between both sides.
It's what, I'm
Like
sorry?
a mediator between both sides.
Okay, all right. So in one case, Ronnie, go ahead.
I'm thinking about negotiation and compromise. I think this was more to the compromise side than the negotiation. And the last one, despite that you described it as compromise, I think it's more like a negotiation because eventually you got what you wanted.
It took about 20 years, yeah.
Okay, so in the first case, she's the president of the organization, and her responsibility is to maintain the operation of the organization. And there's a rebellion against the organization, and so she has to deal with the rebellion. In this case, this last case, she's leading the rebellion. She's not the president, okay, right? So she has made the decision. So she was speaking critically of, in the first case, of Faith, this woman 6'2", who's imposing and making all this trouble. And what does Barbara do in this most recent case? She's a little shorter, but she's the troublemaker. It's interesting, okay, right? Now, is that a surprise? Not really. I mean, these are different times, different situations. And one of the points is, as a leader, sometimes you go one way, sometimes you go another. Okay, and she wasn't. If she was the president, she said she got knocked out, right? So she never became president of this second organization. Had she been president, how would she have managed this? What do you think?
The same way she managed the first case, I would say.
That would be my guess. Okay.
Yeah. But what's similar? What about me as a person was similar in handling both? There is a similarity here. And it talks about me as an ISTJ, which is why it's important to know what you are. I represented the membership of ACP, right? They had elected me to the board, and so I needed to protect my membership. When I was president of APTA, I needed to keep the organization together, but I also had to listen to my membership. Okay, my membership was upset, they were angry, and I needed to go and defend them. So in both cases, I was trying differently to defend my membership.
Did you send them tweets to calm them down?
Yeah, no tweets. No tweets. I was pretty tired after that meeting. Okay, I'm going to skip that one. Yeah, because this is another case where this is a very different case. So I'm now the chair of the department of internal medicine in a small medical school, and the medical school does not have its own teaching hospital. Okay, so the teaching hospital is a community teaching hospital that's run by a for-profit organization. And maybe it's a not-for-profit, they make plenty of money. So I'm the chair of the department, and I have what we call residency programs in internal medicine and in dermatology, actually. And I'm in a meeting of the medical staff, because I'd be on the medical staff just as a member, and also because they'd always have a report about the education and how that was coming, and I'd give them an update on that. So there's this position called the Vice President for Medical Affairs, which is not an elected position, it's an appointed position by the person who runs the hospital, who gets up and says that he'd like me to make the residents do something when they're on call in the hospital, when they're working in the hospital, that actually violates the rules of the accreditation committee. So this would be something that if Richard was being asked by the University of Haifa to do something
rules?
okay, by which your program was regulated. For instance, CEF. So if you get the accreditation from CEF, and the University of Haifa says, oh no, we won't let them do anymore, well, that's the accreditation. He has to defend the accreditation. So this guy embarrasses me in front of the hospital staff, asking me to say yes to something that would violate the rules that ran the residency program, that were not my rules, these were national rules. He wants my public acceptance of his request. I am still sitting in that meeting, and I am being defended by the other staff members. The other staff members are looking at him and saying, what are you worried about? Don't make her do this. Don't make the residents do this. We do this. It's not a big deal. And he's looking at me saying, Barbara, I want you to assure me that the residents will not take responsibility for this other work, which they're not supposed to do. And I stand my ground and I just say to him quietly, I don't yell, I just say, I can't do that, it violates the rules. And 4 weeks later, the dean tells me that I can no longer be the chair of the Department of Medicine. Quote, the hospital can no longer work with you. Do people understand what's going on here? Michael, what do you think?
He wanted a new vice president.
He what?
Wanted a new.
He what?
He wanted to rubber someone.
To rubber stamp what he said.
Yeah.
Right, right.
But it's not very ethical, right?
Of him, right?
Yeah.
He, no?
No, but to ask you to have the residents to be responsible.
Right, right. Right. What else do you see in this case? This is real. And this
She
did happen.
effectively gets fired,
Yeah, I get fired.
effectively.
Who actually fires me? The dean. What? The dean? The dean, based on
What happened?
so who really fires me?
The hospital.
The hospital. Do I have a contract with the hospital? No. So who's running the medical school? If the hospital can tell the dean,
The vice president.
right, so the hospital's running the medical school.
You could have played hardball.
Yeah? Doing what?
I don't know what the violations were.
So the violations were that if I had let the residents do this, they would have been asked to see every patient who died during the night or fell out of bed, even though they weren't resident patients. And there is a rule of the postgraduate residents that they are not allowed, they are not to be responsible for all the patients in the hospital, only those patients that are on resident services. So an internal medicine resident could see a surgical patient, and a surgical resident could see an internal medicine resident patients. But, you know, patients on rehab and patients on this service, or, you know, pediatric, they are not to be responsible for the whole hospital.
You could have hardball threatened to contact ACGM.
And they would have said, go ahead. Of course, the residents hadn't, I didn't let the residents do it. So what could the ACGME do to their hospital?
The residency program.
Okay, but the residency program is going through the medical school.
If the residency program loses accreditation, it's horrible for the hospital. It's free labor.
It's pretty free labor, that's true.
The hospital doesn't pay them anything.
Yes, but actually, the hospital does pay them.
Oh.
The money from the government goes to the hospital. Okay. Yeah, but the hospital complains that they lose money.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the, I can now tell you about some of the background. You know, here's one about the hidden issues. Who's controlling the dean again?
The hospital.
Right, how much money does the hospital give the medical school?
A lot.
$9 million. Where's it coming from?
where's it come from? Medicare or?
Yeah, it's coming from the feds, right? It's coming from the federal government to support the residents, but it's coming through the medical school, right? The residents are hired by the medical school, and the dean gets some of that money. That's part of his budget. $9 million. And the hospital's threatening to pull that money from the dean. So who's really responsible for all this? The dean, right? The dean should stop this, right? Okay, who's really running the medical school, the hospital, and who's really running the dean? Well, the hospital and the vice dean, who wants to run things without being seen and doesn't like me because we got a woman-to-woman fight going on. She would like me to be gone because she doesn't like, she's competing with me.
That's one.
It is boring, yeah. This is kind of boring, but it's real, and I can't win unless I cave and make the residents who I support, again, here I am, I'm supporting the people who work for me, okay, or who I represent, right, and saying, I'm not gonna make them do what's wrong. That's my integrity, that's their integrity, and who was at risk? I was at risk. I lost my job.
I think at the end of the day, it's internal politics, which you see in every organization you go to. So at the end of the day, you decide to draw the line on playing to the tune of the organization or not playing. Drawing the line would be walking out like you did. And
What do you think? Is the appropriate thing to do?
if you compromise your values, yes.
Yeah. So I actually am pretty consistent in all these things in the sense that I've had different goals, right? So I lost my job, okay, because I supported the residents. And I actually went to the CEO, he said the hospital can no longer work with you, go talk to the hospital CEO. So I did, and it was a woman. And the woman said to me, I said to her, I said, Mary, what's the problem here? You can't work with me all of a sudden? Well, I need you to be flexible with the rules.
That's your values.
Right? That's my values. And I looked at her and I said, are you flexible with the hospital rules? And I knew she didn't, because if they unaccredited a hospital, they would be in big trouble. But she was going to defend this vice president who the vice president was probably being motivated by the woman who wanted me out, who wasn't the CEO, but the vice CEO. Anyway, a little complicated with that. And I don't know how much more time we have, but maybe I'll just do the last one. Okay. So this is interesting because this is how I lost the second time I lost my job. So I was appointed to be the medical partnership campus dean, charged with developing a new four-year medical campus, and I worked between two universities, Medical College of Georgia and the University of Georgia. Okay. Working between two universities never really works. But the state of Georgia would not allow a dual working relationship, and so my contract came from the medical college. But I answered to both the University of Georgia and to the Medical College of Georgia. Equally, I answered to them equally. 20 months into my position, as the first medical student started, we had about 20 months to actually get the medical campus off the ground. The entire leadership of the medical school changed. So one of the lessons here is when you take a job, and a leadership job, just understand the people above you, who you came to work with, because they were going to be really good and you got along with them well, have a very high possibility of not being there in the next 3 to 5 years. Right? Because leadership changes very quickly. 20 months into my position, it changed, and the new people down at the Medical College of Georgia, the new president down there didn't want anybody who wasn't on his team. And being not particularly appropriate to the South in the United States, he would say the goal is to he's not on his team off the bus. He wanted to get anybody that wasn't on his team off the bus. And why was this offensive to the South? Anybody who knows any American politics?
not be included.
What?
To not be included.
Not be included, and even more so, when you were an African American, okay, in civil rights, where did where did they have to sit on the
In
bus?
the back.
That's right. Or they had to get off the bus. So this guy, talk about being a narcissist. This guy was as narcissistic as Trump. Okay? And he immediately didn't like me because I was not on his team and he wanted me off the bus. Okay? There was only one problem. The problem is that the other university really liked me. Okay, and in my contract, it said that both universities had to agree before they could get rid of me. And that really bothered the guy down in Medical College, Georgia. So for 4 years, he tried to get me gone. And I was protected until the end. But how did he try to push me out? Through the dean, what?
By bullying you. I remember you spoke about that the last time.
Right, by bullying me through the dean. And the dean was a classic bully. Classic bully. He would get me in the room, he'd scream at me, and then he'd walk outside the room and be absolutely lovely to everybody else and tell everybody how wonderful I was doing. And then he'd pick up the phone when I was, driving the car and scream at me on the phone while I was driving the car. This really happened. Okay? And this continued and this continued.
I mean, in academics, no. In certain, industry, this is kind of par for the course.
In academics,
No, I said not, but
it is.
what?
And
But I know generally, the new CEO comes in, to me that makes sense. And they don't just kick them out on the street; they get good severance packages, but it makes sense that they pick who they're going to work with, and
yeah. The difference here was this guy did it to everybody, including secretaries. He actually fired people in the middle of the meeting.
Could you do that without any valid reason?
Not unless you have the governor of the state right behind you, letting you rename medical schools, universities, and doing whatever you wanted with human relations, okay, and letting somebody else in the background twist all the paperwork. Yeah.
Okay, so to be very specific, the higher up you are in an organization, the easier it is to get fired. Okay? It's very difficult to fire a secretary. Secretaries are relatively protected. It depends on the law in the country, but most of the Western countries, secretaries are protected. But the higher up you go, the easier it is to get rid of someone. And so in her contract was an at-will contract. So if they tell her she's out, and she can't contest it.
But both universities had to agree.
But did you have to sign a contract? You knew that was something that could happen when you decided to work there?
But both had to agree.
Right.
But how did you end up being fired if one liked you and the other was bullied?
Right.
So eventually both of them agreed to that?
No. So the University of Georgia said to me, we know what's happening, just be silent, just watch the bullying. Because I said, they're bullying me. I mean, we'd have a meeting by video, and I'd be sitting next to the rector or provost of the University of Georgia, who's a lawyer, who was a lawyer at the time. And I said, he's bullying me. He says, yes, Barbara, I've had bad bosses, just put up with it. But yeah.
But then how would they sell your story if he was nice to everyone else and he was a bully to you?
It's very hard. This is what happens in bullying cases, right? Is that nobody believes that somebody's getting bullied because externally, right? Or harassment, for sure. I mean, harassment and bullying are different, okay? Because, bullying and harassment are both the same, but sexual harassment is different, right? But it happens when nobody else is seeing it, okay? My secretaries knew because I could hear it through the wall, okay? But nobody else believed it. Now, there was some data on this guy, this dean, right? Because finally, the secretaries, who he also bullied, finally went to human relations, okay? But, they don't even, the higher you are, If they don't want to get rid of you, they find a way not to.
Florida happens to be like a banana republic. I don't know how it is if you work for, in the public sector, but otherwise, the burden is on, you can get fired without cause, and the burden is on the person that got fired to prove that it was because of color of your skin or whatever it is.
Right, which is very hard to do.
They don't have the money, they don't.
Right, right. And so, in this case, the problem was, okay, that this guy's a bully. He's a bully, that's all. Okay, he hired a bully to be the vice dean as well. So there were two of them. They bullied people so much that there were people who left, because that's the way you get people to leave. If you bully them enough and they're as upset, you leave, okay? I used to try to bully him back. I could tell you stories about that. Okay, a lot of feelings and emotions around this. Who was really responsible for resolving this issue? Well, it turns out it's going to be you, the employee, right? And if your boss is a bully, the only thing you can really do is leave, okay?
But was it really right from the University of Georgia to just tell you to deal with it?
Right, so it wasn't really right, okay, to tell me just to deal with it. And in the background, they tried to bully the president of the University of Georgia. Okay, and the University of Georgia president, because he wanted me in that position, because we were doing really well. The new campus did better than the old campus. Okay, and so they were very upset with me in the old campus, the big campus, okay, the real medical school, because my scores and the students were doing better. Okay, and I was a woman and I was a Yankee. Okay, a Yankee, somebody who lives up north in the United States from the Southerners. Okay, so Yankees and Southerners also have a difference with them. Being a woman wasn't so easy either, okay? Because all the politics, as Ted just said, it's all politics, right? Happened in the back room. We used to call boys in the back room.
When was that?
This
whole case?
This whole case, it was between 2008 and 2014. What's that?
Augusta doesn't have the best reputation among Jewish people.
That's correct.
And you're all,
That's correct. So being Jewish, did that help? No.
no, I'm asking if you think, no,
What?
no role here.
There might have been a minor role as this guy, the president down there, who is such a narcissist. He started doing all kinds of rumors about me around the state, and it's hard to know whether some of those people, none of whom were Jewish, none of whom were black, none of whom were Hispanic, one woman on the Board of Regents, none of them who were going to be a Muslim, okay, have no idea. I know that living in Athens, the city of Athens supported me completely. The doctors, the hospitals, the people in town, black, green, yellow,
It's college.
it's a college town. We're the liberals.
There are things like two different organizations, but you represent two different organizations, and you're working for one particular organization. How ethical would it be for someone from the organization to actually interfere in the way you're working?
How
How ethical is it for someone from point A to interfere in point B because obviously working?
in that other whole place? But the accreditation for the medical school was under one accreditation, so there were things that I had to follow. Yeah, so that they still had a fairly powerful effect, but not 100%. They couldn't control me 100%, which is what the problem was, because this narcissistic president wanted to be in 100% control of everybody who worked for him. So what happened finally, and I'll cut this short, is after the University of Georgia really protecting me for about 4 years, they got me down in Augusta with the rector. Okay, for my evaluation, took the rector aside and told her they were getting rid of me that day, which again was against my contract. Okay, basically took a knife and stuck UGA in the back. All right, put me in a room, read me the riot act, told me I would no longer be able to step back into my office, and that they had already called my leadership team to tell me I'm never coming back. I did nothing wrong, okay? Other than not do everything this guy wanted, okay? So the provost, who was at that point a woman, was stunned. She was so stunned, I was driving her back to Athens. She was too nervous to drive, and she looked at me, this just happened to me. She said, if I don't talk, it's because when I get like this, I can't say anything. She was so upset. And it took 4 or 5 days to resolve the issue. They called Augusta. We sent somebody down to Augusta and told the dean who had just done this to me that whatever he had done was null and void. Okay? It didn't exist. It would be stricken from the record. Okay? And that I could go back to my office, that I was still in charge, and that the compromise the boys in the back room, okay, made was that I had to leave in 6 months. They let me see my second class graduate, and then they would do, it goes on. Then they would find somebody to take my place. A month later, to the day that they told me when I had to announce this, they wrote it for me, and I had no say. I tried to negotiate something, they said, you will get nothing. They gave me a year severance, okay, a year of my salary, and a month later to the day that they made me resign, they made the president and Augusta resign. So they fired the person in Augusta.
Did they want someone else to?
To what?
Because if they fired him,
Oh yeah.
it was for
Well, he'd been a bad actor, and the people running the educational system in the state of Georgia, this guy would not, the president down there was not doing what he had been told to do, and I was essentially the last straw. But the chancellor of the state, this went all the way to the governor's office, guys. I was the topic of discussion in the governor's office without me present, okay, because this is all from people else who were there. But the chancellor of the state of Georgia, who controls all of higher ed, had to basically talk to every single person on the board of regents to get them to agree. Now remember, they had been poisoned by this president against me, okay, because he needed to get rid of that president. And it went all the way up to the governor. That still didn't make me feel good, okay, because I lost my job.
I think it's always good to get out of, from under the control of the leader. I think it's always good, no matter what you do.
would you have resigned anyhow? Like, if he had stayed there, you felt like it was a toxic environment anyhow, would you have resigned?
So it had been a toxic environment for a while, and about 2.5 to 3 years before this happened, okay, about a year and a half after the bad guys took over, the bad leaders, I should say, took over, I actually was happy because they were undermining my leadership. They were undermining my faculty. They'd call them up and they'd tell them things about me, and I mean it was, and I had to decide at that point, and I had help. So this is where calling for help. I couldn't use the HR, the Human Resources Department at the medical school because they were all working for this guy, but I used the Human Relations Office at UGA, and they were really good. I actually had several hours of really good therapy with them, okay, and they brought in a consultant for me, okay, to work with me on how to reshape my leadership team, and I decided to stay because my goal, what outcome did I want? I wanted to see this place succeed. So I did it my way because I'm stubborn enough.
It's a nice song.
What?
Good song.
Yeah. I did it my way. A lot of people just were, it was bad. Physically, Richard, 6 months later, people would come up to me, in town and say, do you know how much better you look, even though we're really upset? And so one of the guys who's a real estate person in town said, I'm going to see the governor next week, about something else, and I'm going to bring you up, would you take your job back?